It's Tuesday, people. Welcome to wonderful Tuesday afternoon in Boise, Idaho. As you see, I'm not dealing with with bright sun today. We got a little bit of cloud cover that came in, so we get a nice neutral ambient light. Yeah. So, Wendy Matson already opened up with a question today. She's got a couple issues. So let me go ahead and finish getting some of this stuff set up. Take a look at that. Remember, like, share, comment. That's how we communicate. That's how I talk to you. And by all means, let your friends and family know what I think, what you think, where we can agree, where we agree to disagree, and where we're just not going to get along. I am pragmatic. I'm reasonable in most cases. You just got to be reasonable too. No, but seriously. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Wendy Matson. Now, because she went ahead and sent hers in ahead of time, I won't be able to show it up on the list. But so climate change policy. Okay. So I actually had a discussion with this on Why Libertarian yesterday, of all things. And one of the things is our current policy with regards to the EPA. Okay. EPA doesn't hold organizations responsible for the damage they do to the climate. Departments of environmental quality do not hold them responsible proportionally for the amount of damage they do to the climate and the environment when they go in and do things. We've taken a look at that situation a lot with regards to different organizations. The EPA cleanup items that go on in the Gulf with regards to the massive oil spills, especially with the one refinery that went up. The way that we charge, organizations and industries for violations of various statutes. We have a policy currently in effect that continues to favor established industry giants, who can afford the cost of doing business. And this prevents introduction of new technology. It also allows them to get away with certain bad behaviors. And ultimately, while we fine them for their bad behavior, the cost of cleaning up their bad behavior far exceeds what it is we fine them. So we step back and we basically, I hate to say it this way, but this is essentially what would end up happening. We would repeal the EPA and most of the associated fines that go with that, and actually allow the communities to conduct class action suits against these major companies that continue to pollute the environment. We stop allowing government protectionism of these organizations. That way local stakeholders, when they realize something, and we got an ungodly amount of testing available these days. We got watchdog organizations that go out, they set up their little spectrometers outside of the smokestacks of certain incinerators, so they can monitor exactly how much pollution is being put out by these incinerators. Watchdog agencies have been very successful, and these nonprofit watchdog organizations are actually what inform the EPA and departments of environmental quality when violations start occurring these days. But at the same time, we aren't holding them responsible for the totality of their damage. So we need to actually go back to a situation where we allow the class action suits to happen that force these industries to conduct cleanup in its entirety on their own dime, or we bankrupt them and dissolve them. No bailouts in the free market. I know that's not something a lot of you want to hear, especially with regards to environmental protections. But honestly, it's a far better system than what we've got, and it's a far better system than what we've had for the past 20 to 30 years. Create the situation where the class action suits actually have teeth again, and we can dissolve these companies that insist on violating the rights of other individuals, private stakeholders, and so forth. So, Wendy, that is the libertarian answer to climate change policy. Those companies, those organizations that continue to maintain practices that endanger the communities and the environment, nail them, man. Nail them. But as long as our current legislation is in effect, we have yet to be able to hold their feet to the fire to the full extent of the damage that they've done. Okay. Big business out of politics. Absolutely. 100%. One of the things we notice is right now, okay. Let's step back and take a look at this. Okay. If the Libertarian Party, being as influential as it is, you know, in this election and in the last one, were truly, you know, the way forward for corporations, they would be supporting our candidate, Jo Jorgensen, and not supporting the other two, who both proven to contribute friends of the government protectionism for a significant number of industries in the United States. Yeah, so as far as getting big business out of government, getting big business lobbyists, yeah, nobody wants business out of government more than the libertarians do. Straight up. Yeah, because there are no bailouts in capitalism. As long as corporations keep coming to us with their lobbyists, you know, keep coming to government with their lobbyists time and time again, there will continue to be bailouts. Libertarians are the only party with a platform, no bailouts in capitalism. Big industry out, because we're not running the protection racket for them. If your business model sucks, it sucks. Fix it yourself or dissolve the organization. Done. We're out of bailing out big businesses. Campaign finance reform. Okay. Yes. You know, Libertarian Party's been doing it without any financial assistance from the United States government. We've been doing it on small donations, you know, ever since we managed to get the Koch brothers out of the Libertarian Party. You know, we haven't had the kind of boondoggle, you know, money injection, corporate money injection that buys favors, you know, inserted into our party politics. We haven't. You still continue to see that with regards to the duopoly. Matter of fact, parties, you know, the Republicans and the Democrats at the federal level, at the state level, continue to accept donations from major corporations, significant amounts. You take a look at the amount of money related to Jim Risch, you know, Russ Fulcher even, you know, my opponent, the amount of money he's accepted from PACs. You know, if you want money out of politics, you need to start by electing people who haven't been taking money in order to run for office. You know, so if you step back and you take a look and, you know, see where the money's coming from, you know, what influence that money has on those people, stop voting for them. You know, I'm still under the $5,000 FEC reporting limit. You know, now admittedly, part of that is COVID and the layoffs and the fact that the economy all across the United States is tanked right now, and nobody's got money to donate to campaigns unless you're one of those corporations, you know, one of the 12 richest individuals who just made $54 billion, you know, in the last 6 months. You know, being able to afford a lobbyist is cost effective. You know, owning your politicians. You know, and this is one of those things. It paid off for those, you know, organizations that own lobbyists. You know, nearly $1 trillion. The 5 richest people in America in the last 6 months collectively are now $1 trillion richer as a result of the effects of small business, you know, failures as a result of the lockdowns. People buying from Amazon because they don't actually want to go to a brick and mortar store. All of those companies that have invested in online businesses. Now, we got some locals, but they're small. And when you order through them, Amazon's reached a point right now where they own their own fleets. Next day delivery. If you order from a small business, unless they actually have one of their store clerks out doing the delivery, yeah, but who knows, which of our local stores, which of our local brick and mortars actually have stuff in stock. We got several stores, grocery shopping. It's a good one. Local here in the state of Idaho. We have several stores that do the, buy online and drop off. Albertsons does that. Winco does that. So does Walmart. Yes, they do it too. And they're another one that's absorbed an awful lot of market share because people don't actually want to walk into the store. But you have other options than Amazon and Walmart, to go to maintain that local economy. And some of them have even gone online. Look for them, man. Look for them. Local economy, that's where it's at. So what else have we got? Term limits. Yes. Why does Joe Biden have 50 years in politics? Why does James Risch have 50 years in politics? Now, admittedly, my opponent, Russ Fulcher, he's only been involved for 4 or 6 years, something like that. He was, I think, Senate for District 21 before he accepted the nomination from Ronald Labrador for running for Congress. He's only been in Congress, and this is his first term, so he's only been in 2 years. But absolutely, I don't think anybody should be sitting in that office, especially for the extent of time that many of them do. Pelosi's been in there forever. Mitch McConnell's been in there forever. What have they done for the people of America? They've done a lot for the corporations. They've done a lot for big business. They've done a lot for Wall Street. They've done a lot for the military-industrial complex. Matter of fact, the number of people who are still sitting in Congress that voted in support of the Afghanistan war. Think about that. 19 years later, still got an awful lot of the same people sitting in those seats. Now, admittedly, Idaho, our representatives at the time, I think our Washington delegation has definitely switched out. Butch Otter was Congress in 2001 when he passed that. He's been governor and now he's retired. But there are an awful lot of other people that have been in that situation. I think in 2001, Jim Risch was still pretty involved in Idaho politics. He was, I think, a state senator at the time. Yeah, he's the one that picked up the nomination to, I can't remember who he replaced at this point. Go to Wikipedia. Wikipedia's got it. But yeah, firm supporter of term limits. Problem is how do we set it up? The other thing is are you paying attention to what, there's an awful lot of people right now who say, well, no, we don't want to do away with term limits because if we actually have a good one, we don't want to replace them. The other thing is how do you set up the term limits? If I set up that, they can only serve 3 terms as, a congressman, as a representative, that's 6 years. Well, after those 3 years, they just move to a different job. They run for Senate. They're still in government. They're still in an elected position. How do you set up the term limits? Do you set it up per job? Move up or move out? If you've been in Congress for 3 terms already, you either run for Senate or you go away, or do you go back to the state level for 2 years and then rerun again? I don't know what's the best, really. I don't. But I definitely agree that a lifetime in politics, like Jim Risch, 50 years. He graduated law school, and the first job he held in the state of Idaho was an elected position as the Ada County DA. He's been holding an elected seat ever since. But if Jimmy Rhodes, if you're out there, if you're watching, I'm going to bust on you. I'm still waiting for that to be published. You promised before the election. You did. Okay. So I got something out there. Yeah. So talk to me, folks. What else we got? It's not just what what I want to talk about. You listen to me rattle on daily, and some of you are new. Please enjoy. But I want to talk about something new. I want to talk about what interests you. Let's discuss what the options are moving forward. Because they said term limits, the war in Afghanistan. We can keep rehashing my favorites. Every time I get called up, what are your top 3 things? What are the 3 things you want to do once you're in Congress? Well, first, I want to bring our troops home. Period. 19 years. We've been in Afghanistan long enough. 17 years. We've been in Iraq long enough. We've been involved in the proxy war in Syria for a significant amount of time. Time to come home, folks. Bring our troops home. Number 1 issue. Number 2. Sort of keep going back and forth between some of these other 2 things, but medical marijuana. Decriminalization of marijuana in the United States needs to happen. It has medical use. It would be nice if it got off Schedule 1 so we could actually do legal studies on that medical use. But we have enough evidence out there right now to justify moving it off of Schedule 1 so that we can do those studies. But you got to get it off of Schedule 1 before a lot of these areas can actually do the studies. Somehow that hasn't happened. Barack Obama was nice enough to say, okay, DEA, don't enforce it at the state level. Some organizations didn't. Some of the state DEAs didn't. Some did. We all have, we've all seen the reportings of the DEA agents, raiding the dispensaries in a number of states. The states had them legal. Obama said, don't harass them. Again, that's one of my things. Medical marijuana. There's an awful lot of people out there resistant to it. Folks, it's time we end the drug war. Okay? When was the last time you went to the liquor store and the clerk wanted to have sex with you before they give you a 5th? Right? Never. Doesn't happen. Why? Because it's legal. Because it's regulated. We run it through a process. Company owners, liquor store clerks, there's things they can't do. If we get marijuana off of Schedule 1, people, your dealers, your street dealers won't be able to use that as a way to get to you, to exploit people. Come on. It's time. Get it off of Schedule 1. Next is justice reform. Nonviolent crimes. How many people are in prison for nonviolent crimes across the United States right now? Lots. And depending on how you look at it, nonviolent crimes represent somewhere between, this is one of those weird things because the numbers keep changing. 20% are in on their first time. Okay, another 40% are in for probation violations related to self-medication for trauma. Marijuana is not the gateway. Trauma is the gateway. Alcohol isn't the gateway. Trauma is the gateway. We need to actually start recognizing that that is the gateway. The faster we can heal the trauma, the less likely we are to have addicts in our communities. The faster we fix the economy, less often we'll have people seeking escapism, evading drugs, and becoming addicts. Yeah, and we don't do that as long as there's government interference. We don't. So fix the economy, move forward, and we can make things happen. Absolutely, definitely make things happen. So we move forward. Take a look at decriminalization of marijuana. Now, here's part of nonviolent crimes, right? Addiction is currently a nonviolent crime. People aren't going out and killing people and stealing things because they're addicts. How many alcoholics out there? Matter of fact, right now, an awful lot of addicts in our society right now, the ones that haven't been caught and arrested and thrown in prison for their addiction, are functional addicts. They use the stuff. Nobody at work notices. Not that I suggest that. I don't. We need to do better at education on drug use and abuse, use of recreational versus addiction. My family, I've had certain members come to understand that we're biologically prone to addiction with certain substances. Don't use them, you don't become addicted. The biological key isn't there. But yeah, so nonviolent crimes, legalization of marijuana, bring our troops home. Another one that I talk about an awful lot, 443 organizations, executive agencies in the United States, 443. Why do we need 443 executive agencies in the United States? And a number of these have cabinet positions or they're sublets to the cabinet. 443. These are supposed to be operating with congressional oversight. Okay. We have more agencies than we do elected congressmen. When you're looking at 0.8, 0.9 congressmen per executive agency, how do you actually do effective oversight of these agencies and organizations? You can't. You can't. So we need to work at the federal level, start draining the swamp. You know it, I know it. Drain the swamp. Every presidential candidate since JFK, it's about drain the swamp, drain the swamp. Yet with every one of them, the swamp just gets deeper. The swamp just gets bigger. That's what the two-party system's done for us in the last 70 years. Time to drain the swamp. And the two-party system isn't going to drain the swamp. The tools that built the master's house are not going to tear down the master's house. We need something different. We need a different way of looking at things in order to make things happen. Yeah. So, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We all like that, right? How do we make that happen? Well, we all know the libertarian platform. Taking over the world so we can leave you alone. I like that. I know my life's been a little bit messed up because I let the government dictate, what I can and can't do. I know there's an awful lot of other individuals in the United States right now that are having problems with, not just police officers, but social workers and, other individuals that come into their life and say, you're not doing this the way I want you to do it. And because of that, I'm going to make your life miserable. For some of us, it's been, our children's school teacher. You know, for some petty reason, they've decided to report you. My brother's had that happen to him repeatedly, almost to the point where, when that teacher would call and report him, on some status related to his kids, social workers got an obligation. Social worker received that call often enough. They literally showed up, knocked on the door, and said, "Sorry, she did it again." How do we let petty bureaucrats accumulate that level of power over the individual lives of people in the United States? Why is it we continue to allow it? No. It's one of those things we really need to work at. Go in, find the solutions to those, work on disassembling that power structure in the federal government, work on, the downstream effects of what that's done. Housing and urban development has affected housing all across the United States. Current HUD policies, are contributing to the rising costs of housing everywhere. I grew up in Idaho. When I came back from the military, I was thinking, I'm going to settle down. I'm going to buy a house in Idaho. Yes. And I'm going to bring my kids here. And then I get out of the military and I get here and, the house I grew up in that my parents bought for like $55,000, the exact same model of house is running for $350K. I'm not making that much more than my parents were, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. I'm not. You're not. Why do our houses cost so much more? Federal government incentives. We've guaranteed things. Government regulations, policies, procedures, things that continue to get in our way. Admittedly, not all of these problems are at the federal level. We got state issues, we got local issues, but those. If you can, you need to get out. You need to run for office. Run for local. Run for the school board. Honestly. You can apply a libertarian philosophy to the way we run our school boards, to the way we run our schools, and say, this isn't okay something to spend our money on, and this isn't. You can look across the nation and find best practices. What do schools that succeed do? And then mirror them. Become your subject matter expert. Become your local expert. Run for city council. Learn what it is to do libertarian city planning. No. That's actually an oxymoron. Reason why is because if you're doing city planning, there's no way to apply a libertarian platform to it. Especially when you're dealing with situations where it's like, folks, water scarcity, it's an issue. There is a limit to how big Boise can get if we're going to maintain a water table that will support the population. We should literally be able to say, you know what? Boise's got a limit. We should be able to say that naturally. Do the science. There's a maximum size the city can grow. And that'd be libertarian if nature says you can only grow so much. It's interesting. I'm going to have to think on that one, really. Because, that's what we're dealing with here in Boise right now. We're actually having water problems. We've exceeded, the growth capacity currently we are using more water than the aquifers are capable of replenishing. We're quickly becoming one of the fastest growing deserts in the Pacific Northwest. You know, and there's other things that contribute to that. You know, global warming, climate change, whatever you want to call it. You know, it's a natural cycle, folks. You know, there are things we can do to combat it. Doesn't matter whether it's man-made or not. You know, if it is man-made, yes, that's a win. Because if it's man-made, it means we can reverse it. If it's not man-made, we're actually going to need to learn how to do some terraforming in order to fix the problem. You know, but we can do it. There's science out there that supports terraforming here on the planet. You know, things that we can go in to stop desertification. You know, that we can improve rainfall, microclimates. You know, we can do these things. It's proven. You know, if climate change is happening and if it isn't man-made, we can still effect man-made climate change to improve things for everybody. We can. There's the science out there that supports it. You know, question is who do you trust to do it? You trust the United States government? Who remembers Solyndra? You remember Solyndra? Yeah. Look it up sometime. It was a green energy company. Heavily invested, and I think one of Biden's grandkids was a CEO or something like that. Cousin, sister, something like that. Anyway, it was a friend of the family, friend of the government, family of the government, something like that. But, you know, take a look at it, see what's going on. Now, again, somehow I managed to get through all of this. Thanks for the comments. You know, we got the faces up there. You know, gotta love the faces. Keisha, thank you. Todd, Jessica, Ashley, John, all of you for participating today. You know, it would have been nice if you asked questions, like, comment, share. That's how we boost the algorithm. That's how we make things happen. Please donate to my campaign. Share with your friends and family if you're actually watching this. So Tuesday, this is my normal weekday, 30 minutes. You got my 30 minutes. I actually ran a little bit over. Like, share, comment. Let me know what's going on with you. You know, I'll follow it up just like I did today with Wendy. Wendy, again, thank you for your comments. Definitely, if you guys comment later on, I'll definitely move your concerns to the front of the list so we can talk about them. Like, share, comment, and remember, it's about you. Let's make this happen, folks. Family, friends, community, together, we make all your liberties happen all the time. Peace.